Hi, I'm Rick Hoffman, Technical Marketing Engineer for the Technical Enablement Team here at Aruba Networks. This is episode 5 of the Aruba Restful Automation Series. Congratulations on making this far. So, we are going to rewind the clock a little bit. We're going to go back to episode 3, where we were looking at Python data structures and Mongo documents. Well, I want to show you in Python data structures and JSON how deep things can get and how we can decipher that even more. And there's some tricks I want to show you where you are going to think you have JSON because it looks like JSON, but it's really a Python dictionary and we have to convert it into JSON. And then once we get that JSON, we're going to have to flip it back on out into a Python data structure. So that's what this episode's about, is learning that a little bit more. I think that's key, that's crucial to knowing how to make your way through this world, because this stuff can be very deep and nested. And if you can't get to the data, it doesn't do you any good. So let's get into the lecture and the lab. And thank you once again for making it this far. I'm super proud of you, you seeker of knowledge. I know who you are. And let's get started. This lecture will probably be the shortest of the whole series, but this is very important. And I've been really focusing on this. I want you to know the difference here between data structures and JSON and where they get used. So I just came up with a couple of simple examples to make that happen. Okay, so let's look at what we call Python data structures, right? We've covered this. This is like our third time going over this. Just remember, lists have the square brackets, dictionaries have the curly braces. That's all I want you to remember. And a list is just a list of things, but a dictionary has keys and values, and we're going to look at how to find those keys and values. We're going to get a very big um, dictionary and drill down into it. So this is what's going on. So we have two things that are REST entities, right? So they understand REST calls. And so we have these other things called Python dictionaries. So they're data structures in Python that cannot be a string, but we cannot transmit a Python dictionary to another REST entity. It has to be a string that looks like a Python dictionary, but it's a string. So we're going to use this utility called JSON dumps and JSON loads. And what we're going to do, and this is a little confusing, but we're going to work our way through it. So when we have a Python data structure, say on the right-hand side of the screen, and we want to get it over to the left side of the screen, we have to do this thing called JSON dumps. And so we're turning a Python dictionary into a string, but it looks just like the Python dictionary. It has the curly braces and square brackets, but we use Python dumps to take that dictionary and break it down and turn it into a string, and we pass it over the wire in a JSON serialized string with the curly braces and square brackets. And when it gets to the other REST entity, when we get that value, we have to convert it back into a Python dictionary. And we're going to use JSON.loads to take that string and load it into a Python dictionary. So this is a big stumbling block for me when I first started out, and I just want you to see it in action. So we are going to take this dictionary. Now, this is just a dictionary. We know this because it starts with a curly brace and ends with a curly brace, but it certainly has a lot of square brackets and curly braces in it. So it's kind of a mess, right? But we're going to find a very specific number inside this dictionary, and we're going to show you how to drill into that. The second part of the lab, we're going to focus on these lines. Now, we're going to have this information. It looks like a Python dictionary, but it's in a text file. These are just strings that look like a Python dictionary. And we're going to convert these into Python dictionaries and back out again to strings. That's going to be the lab. Join me. Let's get started. This is going to be a super, super short lab, but we're going to get the gist of this so this never hangs us up when we're doing our future projects. Let's get started with the lab. What we have here is a Python dictionary inside a file called dictionary.py. And that file is in the utility directory. And we are going to go ahead and use a Python script to read this dictionary in. So it's really simple to do. We just pick our script here, and what we're saying is we're saying from the utility folder, there's a file called dictionary.py. We just leave the .py off. And from that, I want to import this thing called colors. And colors just happens to be a dictionary, and we're going to find out because we're going to check the length and type of that dictionary. So we just run colors, and then we see starts with a curly brace, ends with a curly brace. It is a dictionary. It tells us the class is a dictionary. It tells us there's 3 things in the dictionary. Now, if we wanted a very specific thing in the dictionary, we would have to say something like, we want a very specific key because we know they're key value pairs, but we really don't know what the keys are. So here's a little for loop that we put into our code that's going to let us look at the keys. So if we go clear the screen and we say colors once again, you can see that we have 3 keys here, 2020, 2021, and 2022. So we can say, we can get rid of that part, and we'll just come back here and we'll say colors 2020. And so I'm just looking for that key called 2020. So let's run that again. Run it again, and we get just the key for 2020. And we know it starts and ends with a square bracket, so it's a list. So we're dealing with a list, and we need to see further down into the list. So we want to see the first thing. What do we always say? It's a box 0. Okay, we do that, we run it again, we get just the first thing. And the first thing is a dictionary. So we see there's keys in the dictionary, and we're interested in the mix. So to get that, we have to put another box and say mix, because it's a key that we're dealing with now, right? That inside. So mix should get us what we're looking for, and I don't think we need that one. Okay, let's run it, give it a shot. Okay, we got the mix, and mix starts and stops with a square bracket. So we need to get another number in here. We're going to pick 2, and we're going to run it one more time. We're going to see what 2 is. So this is how we get through these very deep nested things. So 2 is another list that starts and ends with a square bracket. So we want the first index of that list. We would have to say we want index 1, and that gives us back 56, the value 56. That's how we drill down through these very deep nested dictionaries. We just take it one step at a time. And when we do that, we have a very specific thing that points directly to that piece of data. I hope by now this clears up the difference between Python dictionaries and JSON strings, and how we use JSON dumps and loads to convert dictionaries into JSON strings and JSON strings back into dictionaries. This will hang you up. It's one of the most difficult things I came across on my journey to becoming a developer. And I just want to just drive it home why this is so important, how we know the difference. Because when we're looking at these on the screen, they look exactly the same. So don't be fooled by this anymore. And this is the last I'm going to talk about it. So stay curious and Google the error message and join me in the future episodes of the Aruba Restful Automation series. And as always, developer arubanetworks.com, devhub arubanetworks.com. These are great resources. And if you want to do continued learning, I threw a couple of extra ones on here. There's udemy.com, coursera.com, linkedin.com. Join me in the next episode. Now, we're going to start picking this up a bit. We're going to start building our application. And we're going to start using these things called Jinja 2 templates to make a very nice web front end for our application so we can display the data. So join me in the very next episode when we dive into Jinja 2 templates. I promise it'll be fun. Looking so forward to it. Thank you for watching.